Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, guys, just I guess more on the extreme weather patterns and how they're changing, and as this binary system gets closer to us, subhanallah. There's an individual from Skywatch Media. He's a very competent researcher. He's studying the same phenomena, and he's done a segment on this on the weather changes. He uploaded it on the 21st of September. It's the first time I'm actually watching it. We're going to watch together. What I'll do is, no doubt, as we come across bits of information where I feel that there's something to be added to that, I'll interject there. So I know, please, I do apologize, I know you're going to listen to the other chap doing his presentation, but if there's some important piece of information, then I'll just basically muscle in, inshallah. And anyway, Bismillah.
September 21st, 2016. Those who follow the news as it relates to climate change on a regular basis are aware and ultimately concerned that the weather is becoming more unpredictable and more bizarre with each passing day. As an example of the changes we are now confronted with, let's look at the weather patterns and climate conditions that are happening in the United States. The East Coast is experiencing an inexplicably warm summer. Historically temperate regions like the Adirondacks and the White Mountains were hit with numerous record-high temperatures that have baffled meteorologists across the nation. Forecasters, including some of the country's most respected climatologists, predict another warm fall and seasonable winter for areas normally ravaged by blistering cold and mountains of snow. Although the National Weather Service, the NOAA, and the World Meteorological Organization provide no meaningful explanation for sudden drastic climate change, ostracized scientists and whistleblowers attribute these earth changes to Nibiru, said to...
Okay, guys, subhanAllah, this particular image, sorry, I'm interjecting again. This particular image was leaked by someone in NASA. This is when I started, this image is the one that piqued my interest in this phenomena. When this image was leaked, it was certainly confirmed authentic. It really piqued my interest in this particular system. Now, what you see before you, and this is what I understand from all the research, all the information that's been coming in, all the images we've been processing, right, all the footage that's been taken, and all the anomalies, and then the footage from the SETI NASA satellite and the SDO NASA satellite, all of that together points towards this system having entered our solar system. And if you look to this red glowing body, and do you see the ionized atmosphere? You'll probably recognize it now. You'll become just as adept at recognizing this celestial body. Now, we saw it opposite the sun. A chap caught it on the motorway from the UK. He was just as stunned by it when he saw it, and we discussed it in one of the videos where there was this other light source other than the sun, which made the sky look much more dramatic in the opposite direction of the sun than it was behind the sun and around the sun, around our sun. And what we were hypothesizing is that this was that celestial body, okay, that was there, and it's almost like this brown dwarf star, which doesn't really emit its own light, right? Now, what we're saying is this system. Now, you might see this grouping, and it's very easy for the untrained eye to basically consider this to be the actual star, and these planetary bodies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, there's about 11 celestial bodies that can be picked up. Even maybe perhaps there's one here and one here as well, to be honest. And don't forget, these celestial bodies themselves, the planets have moons as well, right? Okay, and those that fit into the category of planets, then there's rocks, moons, basically, and then there's stars. Now, one would be very easily lulled into believing that this is basically the star at the center of this system, but it's not actually. It's a dwarf star. Okay, this is the star I was referring to that doesn't have its own source of light and was caught in the infrared spectrum by the Brazilian sky camera. If you remember the footage, if you go back to the stuff that's been uploaded on the channel, there was one where we said a star caught in Brazil, where it was to the right of our sun. The sun was on the left, and this particular star was rising on the right, just behind the mountain, over the ocean. And the infrared camera, because it picks up a heat signature, it actually picked this up, right? And this is the very same one that we referred to in the video that the chap in UK had also caught. And we've seen it in other places. I've uploaded someone, oh sorry, yeah, Matthew in the UK. He actually recorded this, and you could see it spinning as well as it was approaching. And he said it was in the north east, right? And this is what the direction I recommended respected and beloved ulama to look in order to detect this particular celestial body. Now, what I need you to understand here, because we've got this footage, it'll be far much more easier for me to explain now. This I believe to be the proton star, which is basically at the center of this mini solar system, and it's binary to our sun. Okay, so this is the one that's actually next to our sun at the moment, from what I understand and from the research that we're doing, that this is the star that's draining our sun of its energy on the surface. Okay, so it's not going to suck our sun dry. Hadith states very clearly, if anything, at any time, and if the sun was ever to stop, then it's for the 3 days of darkness, and then it resumes again, until the day of judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it the command to stop. So we understand, and it's very clear for us that the sun is going to jumpstart again, as it were. And a very crude explanation, so forgive me. But let's, just to keep things on layman's terms and simple, let's just say that the sun would jumpstart if this particular star is right now next to it. And because there's a magnetic attraction between our sun and this star, right? And both are very similar in composition, okay, and what they're made of, the stuff they're made of. The only difference is this star seems to be far more stronger than our sun, far much more powerful. It's more condensed, it's smaller. That's the only thing. Our sun is bigger than this, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's stronger. Okay, this is a smaller star, it's a proton star, it's more condensed, but it's got a higher magnetic field and a gravitational field as well. And what it's doing, what we understand and what we're hypothesizing, and we've basically laid out in the 3-part series of the 3 Days of Darkness, which is also on the channel, we explain how this particular star seems to be draining our sun of its source of energy, and we show evidence and data points through the NASA STO satellite imagery. Now, NASA came out officially and explained it away. I did mention this to a friend of mine, and straight away he actually, like most of us would do, and do, is basically accept the official narrative. Whatever's regurgitated, we just basically swallow it whole. And what they said was it was basically the moon passing and eclipsing it. I certainly was very dubious about that explanation, just because of the nature of NASA and my experiences through the explanations, the official explanations they have given. They've never really tallied up. So I certainly take everything that they say with a pinch of salt. And in this particular instance, I still was on the fence about it. And I'm glad I basically stuck my course, because it turns out the evidence is certainly suggesting that they've been lying. Okay, now please take a look if you're curious enough, and this is the first time you're coming across this content. Then take a look at the 3 Days of Darkness Part 1, 2, and 3, and that will explain how we believe, and you'll be able to. It's verifiable evidence, so you can cross-reference it. Again, we've provided very, very real data. to support the claim that we're making. So it's not just something that's been pulled out of a hat. Now, this particular proton star, once we believe, we understand it's done draining our sun of its energy, that magnetic attraction will basically wane. And as it wanes, it will leave the barycenter between the two stars and basically go back off in its trajectory. Now, you need to understand that all of these, if you can see my cursor, let's say for instance, this particular rock or planet, I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks like a rock because it doesn't look circular. Allahu alam, that might be how the light is falling on it. But let's call it a celestial body for argument's sake. It rotates around this particular proton star. Okay, and then this particular planetary body also does exactly the same. It rotates around this star. This planetary body does exactly the same. It rotates around this star. And this planetary body does exactly the same. It rotates around this star. This dwarf star does exactly the same. It rotates around this star, and so on. So every planetary body that you see on the screen are actually rotating around this star, right? So, I mean, it's very easily, I mean, at first glance, you can easily be lulled into believing that this is basically the center, simply because of how overpowering it looks and the glow it's got around it in the ionized atmosphere. It's a plasma field. But that doesn't mean that these celestial bodies are actually rotating this, but rather they're rotating this proton star, which is right now parked up next to our sun, and that's why we've discussed the solar sun simulator and the cloaking device. Okay, and all of these videos could be found on the channel, and it'll basically at least give you an in-depth explanation of what we believe is happening and why and how they are basically cloaking this particular system. And also at the same time, once the sun's energy is waning, they're basically using an artificial solar sun simulator to simulate our sun, which is orbiting very close to our planet, in line to our sun and the direction of the sun. So it basically hides our sun at the same time as reflecting the light source and the heat, and there's other bits of technology that's used for that. Please take a look at the videos if it's past you. Anyway, I'll play this and let's listen to this guy. But I'm really glad that we came, because I don't think I've really covered this image at length in any one of the videos yet. So I mean, he's obviously used it as material, subhanallah, and it served itself as a wonderful opportunity. Again, this was never leaked by NASA ever. You know, someone has from NASA, but it was never officially leaked. And so, I mean, these are very genuine questions we need to be asking: is why has this been kept from the public? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Again, take a look. The image, 2007. Subhanallah. So this was on its approach to our solar system, and it was taken then. You know, and sorry, back then in 2011, I can distinctly remember there was Skyview and some numbers. I don't know what the numbers were. Skyview something something something, and there were a group of astronomers who came together, and they detected this system coming in, and they were really concerned about it. They made a lot of noises about it, and then for some reason, at some point, they were muffled, and their channel's been closed down since. I've not heard from them since. I don't think anyone has. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best what's happened. Inshallah ta'ala, they're safe wherever they are. Maybe they've felt a lot of heat, you know, when they were basically touching this topic, because they were very few and far between. It just seems to have taken momentum now, and a lot of people are taking interest in this simply because of the evidence that is surfacing now to support this hypothesis.
Be a brown dwarf star with 7 orbiting planets rapidly approaching our inner solar system. According to recent non-established reports, Dr. Ethan Trowbridge, a former USGS climatologist who supervised the geomagnetism program and the core sciences division of this agency, blames climate discrepancies on Nibiru's proximity to our planet. According to Trowbridge, Nibiru is no myth. It is real, and it is here.
Look, again, for all intents and purposes, Nibiru is this elusive. Almost in certain descriptions, it's considered a planet. In other descriptions, it's considered a star. In other descriptions, it's considered a dwarf star. So, I mean, for us, let's what should concern us is potentially this particular system, at least the star at the center of it, the proton star. I understand fits um, um, considerably well the description of a star mentioned in the Kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah At-Tariq and Surah An-Najm. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I certainly can't say with absolute certainty that that is the case, but my heart is certainly gravitating towards those two surahs. And again, it's all the research that has been done so far, and dreams as well. And Allah Subhanahu wa Taala knows best. I've vividly seen that star along with two celestial bodies which were red and blue in color, and this star had a blue haze around it, and it was Subhanallah. It was very very bright. Anyway, so I'll continue anyways. So,
The USGS has secretly monitored Nibiru's approach for some 3 decades now, conveniently covering up its existence and influence on our planet with a mountain of misinformation, like blaming climate shift on greenhouse gases. Dr. Trowbridge cites a leaked USGS memo as evidence of Nibiru's influence on Earth. This memo, showing here, demonstrates a significant deviation from established weather in the northeastern United States. If all information is accurate, this forecast depicts a dangerous rise in median temperatures along the eastern seaboard. Many noteworthy scholars have argued that even a worldwide 3-degree shift will destabilize the Earth's atmosphere and plunge this planet into another ice age with a resulting pole shift. Do you know who this man is? His name is Damir Zakharovich. He is a Russian astronomer and former scientific advisor to Vladimir Putin. Earlier this year, he divulged information about the dark star to Pravda, and now has to operate from the shadows for fear of being blacklisted. He recently indicated that the drastic changes that are occurring across the globe, and especially this year in the United States, depends on the movement of Planet X, which is consistently moving, and the changes here on Earth fluctuate with the movement of this planet in our solar system. He further explains that the planets around the brown dwarf orbit this dark star. The precise position of the planets and the system itself dictate how the Nibiru system impacts Earth at any given moment in time. As it grows close, changes will be more widespread and pronounced. In recent months, a growing number of whistleblowers have come out to speak publicly about the arrival of Planet X. The USGS is believed to be one of those government agencies that is actively engaging, along with NASA, to conceal Nibiru's existence and to blame drastic climate changes on man-made events, like over-reliance on fossil fuels and releasing chlorofluorocarbons into the atmosphere, rather than attribute Earth changes to Nibiru's proximity to our planet. The United States Geological Survey has known for many years that Antarctica would be ravaged by the approach of this system. This is because Nibiru is on an elongated elliptical orbit relative to our southern hemisphere. So people living in this part of the world would see Nibiru first.
right, guys, I paused it deliberately. What I wanted was this particular star to stop here somewhere, just about here somewhere, because that would be the binary center. You see this? This part would be the binary center between these two stars. That's our sun, right? It's not showing us or the other planetary bodies orbiting our sun. This is that proton star. It's not showing the other planetary bodies orbiting it. We're just this is a crude model showing that proton star and our sun. What a binary center is basically the closest point where these two stars' gravitational center meets. Okay, so that would be it. So right now it seems to be somewhere here, right? Because of that attraction between the two. It would generally, as it's on its orbit, it would smoothly run around its orbit, right? And as it gets closer and closer, it comes in faster and faster and faster, and then it stops where the gravitational attraction is the strongest. So we understand that it's parked up right now around here somewhere, and they're cloaking it. Okay, and once it's parked up here, it's really draining our sun of its source, well, the surface of its energy, right? And as it's done all of that, and then that attraction has waned, the magnetic attraction has waned of our sun, right? This is when we expect it to go flying back out again, taking with it all the celestial bodies that's orbiting it as well at the same time. And as it does that, it will go past our planet Earth, and that's when we expect those extreme events to occur, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
And they shall also be the first to experience whatever Nibiru brings with it. And it's not bringing anything good.
Also, as it happens and it goes past, we're expecting the powers that be, because for them, they never waste a disaster. They're expecting this impending disaster, but along with it, there's every reason to believe that they're looking to stage an extraterrestrial contact. Okay, and that plays into the phase 3 of this plan around the incoming passage of this particular star. Okay, and like I've said repeatedly before, phase 1 of that particular plan was 9/11. Everything we've seen in between has been phase 2. Phase 3 will be basically the plan, the final steps they will take before the arrival of Masih Dajjal, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best again. It's interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this star in the surah, and that surah is the first surah ever revealed which has got Sajda Tilawat in it. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the same thread mentions that they plan, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also plans, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. It's just a very interesting matter.
The Ronnie ice shelf will likely break off the continent and drift into the Weddell Sea. This will cause enormous icebergs to drift toward New Zealand. As the ice reaches warmer waters, it will rapidly melt, causing a significant rise in sea levels. To give you an idea of the significance of such an event, if it were to take place, and recent data from these locations suggest that this is happening now and at an accelerated rate. Take a look at this video of what our future continents may look like.
Just putting the volume slightly down because I won't know when he started talking or not. I'm taking all of this in just as much as any of you guys are, mashallah.
Ross Ice Shelf, the world's largest at 487,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of France, may also separate from the continent, causing mountainous clusters of ice to float south towards New Zealand and Australia. Polar storms, unlike any the world has seen, will ravage the continent in conjunction with a marked increase in seismic and volcanic activity. Mount Sipil, one of
Now, what we need to understand is the same Surah, subhanAllah, also mentions all these nations that were killed or annihilated, as it were, through natural disasters. And those natural disasters was Qawm Nuh, we understand they were flooded. And then Qawm Ad, again, these were like um, winds, extremely powerful winds. And then other Qawms were basically through being pelted with claystone, fireballs from the sky, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So I mean, all of it indicates towards, I mean, potentially, if there was any other um, probable explanation, or a probable explanation, it could very well be a binary system that comes in to our solar system, creates these drastic changes to our weather pattern, to the causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and then the comet debris that it brings in, which rains down from the sky as fireballs, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Antarctica's largest active volcanoes is certain to erupt, sending a plume of deadly ash into the atmosphere. This will be the start of a pole shift. Large earthquakes will ripple across the continent. Add to that multiple super eruptions.
You know, the pole shift would have to occur if, I guess, one of the ways of explaining how the Arabian Peninsula will become greener, which is what the Prophet ﷺ has stated would happen, is by them enjoying a different climate, and that climate could change if if Saudi wasn't on the equator or close to the equator anymore, and rather enjoyed a more colder climate, right, which was more conducive to greener pastures, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best again. So the poles would have to shift, and again, another system that comes in and tugs at our poles can flip our poles. So I mean, again, it fits that hypothesis of being an asbab quite well, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
This will shake Antarctica to its very foundation. And this is just the beginning. What happens in Antarctica is merely a precursor for what will happen across the entire globe. The devastation will...
There's a guy called, a climate geologist called Paul Beckwith. He's from the University of Ottawa. Again, he's certainly concerned about the climate. He's more inclined towards the whole climate pollution narrative. But what he says is very interesting. He says what happens in Antarctica doesn't stay in Antarctica. In other words, any changes that happen there will have drastic effects on the climate world over, as well as sea levels and other stuff, simply because of the ice, I guess, melting, which is melting at a drastic rate.
Start there, then rapidly spread. Scientists who are aware and who know of this approaching system have indicated that those living in the southern hemisphere will be the first to witness its destruction, but that those who live in the northern hemisphere should be prepared for what's coming, as the geography of North America will be forever changed by the rising sea levels and tsunamis that will affect all three coastlines of the United States.
SubhanAllah, you can just see, like, Ajib, right? If those sort of waves were incoming, you can just imagine the sort of destruction they would cause in their wake. It just kind of conjures up an image of what the Qawm of Nuh alayhi salam may be experiencing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best again. And we have to be mindful of the fact that, the at least in the Jewish faith, in the Torah, they mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moved a star in the heavens which caused the flooding, which is an interesting, again, correlation between the star and the floods. caused here back on Earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best how accurate that particular statement is.
Those living in large metropolitan areas near coastlines will be affected in unimaginable ways by these drastic changes, as the coastlines of the United States will be several hundred miles inland from their current locations.
And this is why I say, if it's confirmed, then this system does indeed exist, and the ulama research it, mashallah, and they come to the same conclusions. Then one of the things that needs to be done is basically mashallah, I guess so shura has to be set up of ulama. They have to come to a collective consensus once they've done the research behind all of this, and I hope it's going to happen sometime soon, because it doesn't seem like we have that much time, to be honest with you. And when that's done, then they need to basically collectively come to the conclusion of what the step solution is, whether it's a 3-step solution, a 5-step solution, or whatever that is, and then basically roll that out for the ummah to act upon. This includes the Muslims and the non-Muslims. Our priority certainly remains with our Muslim brethren, but we're here to basically assist. Subhanallah, kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. We've been sent here for the good of mankind. Subhanallah. So I mean, that's basically part of our purpose. Is to have that ulfat and that mercy towards all of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's creation. And potentially, I mean, if it is true, then and the ulama basically publicly come out and say and inform the whole ummah that look, there's an impending disaster, and for whatever reason that beguiles us, the powers that be and our governments have basically not informed us of it. And I personally have my understanding of why they're not doing that. I'm not going to basically explain that and divulge on that. It's not necessary. We don't want to do too much. It's already quite a sobering thought that things are about to basically change life as we know it, subhanallah, considerably. But again, the Ummah needs to know some sort of a step solution where you'd basically say, I mean, this is just a guesstimate, but I personally feel that we should be at least 150 miles inland from whichever location we're living in from the oceans. And we need to be at least a minimum 400 feet up above sea level. Then everyone needs to stock up, subhanallah, on their inventory with non-perishable goods, subhanallah. Then we need to connect with our masajids and our ulama. There's so much, subhanallah, that we could basically inform the ummah about and get them to make some level of preparation. Because for those of us who live near the coastlines, if this system does exist, then there's two things that could that put them at higher risk. One is the tsunamis coming in that are anticipated if this system does exist and does cause the anticipated effect that it would have scientifically as it's going past us, and that's magnetically and gravitationally. And then the landslides again, where you see all these lines that you see, almost like fault lines, okay? And wherever the fault lines are, this is where basically the surface of the earth would either drop or raise, and as it does that, so does the water. And generally, it's the coastlines where you'll see the land sliding. You'll probably see it as well, like we get sinkholes and stuff. The land, there's no reason to believe why it won't just happen. Why it will just happen near the coastline. It could personally happen in inland as well. But having said that, the risk is far much more higher around the coastlines of being affected by the potential drastic effects of this system as it goes past us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
It may be interesting to note that this data matches warnings issued by other Nibiru whistleblowers and researchers. Renegade astronomer Paul Cox.
Now, 4 months ago, I did a video. Actually, it's the first video that I've uploaded on this channel about this system. When I was basically adamant, and it was very clear to me that I really need to basically now speak out about it, and try to draw the attention of ulama. I started with this individual. He's called Paul Cox. He works for a astronomy institution called SLU, and he used the third world's biggest telescope and actually showed a celestial body next to our sun and said it was a binary star. Since then, the papers came out and refuted it and said he's a bit of a joker, and every now and then he's been known to basically tug at people's the conspiracy theorists. The thing is, the truth of the matter is, he has never publicly come out and refuted or taken reneged on that statement, not once. Not even the papers have been able to get an official statement from this guy. Again, when I looked at the image, it looked very sincere, very honest. It didn't look like the guy was at all nervous. It seemed like he was very intentional and he was very serious. And he wanted to get this out there in the public domain. And this is basically him shrugging off his responsibility to get with his conscience and get the information out. And since then, he's basically, from the public forum at least, he's just taken a very low profile. But it's certainly worthwhile looking into. Look it up. It's the first video on my channel. If you go backwards to the first one, I actually basically give you a link, the direct link to where the video is uploaded, and I give you a timestamp of exactly where. It's an 8-hour video where he basically does the transit of Mercury past our sun, and I think it was deliberate so that he could catch and show publicly at the same time, whilst airing the transit of Mercury, he can publicly show this star parked up next to our sun, which is exactly what we're claiming it's doing right now, right? And it was brighter, subhanAllah. The sun looked considerably a few more shades darker than this particular star which was next to it. And I'm sure he had some sort of lenses in front of the telescope, as you would do if you're looking directly at the sun in order to be able to see it and look at any sort of celestial body that's transiting past the sun. So again, he was using the third largest telescope in the world. He does represent SLU, and SLU by no means is a backdoor institution. It's a very big institution. In fact, after space, NASA, space.com, then I think SLU would basically would be next in line in terms of these observatories worldwide. And he's one of the astronomers at SLU. So please look it up. Just go to the first video that I've uploaded on my channel and you see it for yourself. And when someone of his caliber comes out and says something like this, that's when we really, our ulama certainly want to take notice. Because I mean, you can't. He actually called NASA liars. Now that's something you can't do. As a professional astronomer with credibility in the fraternity, in the industry, right, with his peers. This individual, he just can't, he'd be sued for libel. It's as simple as that, right? And the only reason he hasn't been taken up on this is simply because these guys don't want to draw attention any more than what's already been drawn towards this particular system as it's coming. They want to disguise it as much as possible, and I've discussed why they want to do that, and it seems like they're scheming just so that we can't make the preparations. And again, they've got these, they call them ARC underground cities, basically dotted around the globe, in Russia, in America, in China, everywhere. And they're all part of the structure. The elitists, and those are their safe havens when this event does actually occur, and the disasters that are expecting to happen. Again, that's another topic for you guys to research. If you're inclined that way, there's a lot of evidence to support that claim. There's a lot of evidence to support it. Now, they have made these underground cities, and they're there for them. But like I said, no harm can come to anyone that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala hasn't willed. And no benefit can come to anyone that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala hasn't willed it for, and vice versa. So if they're meant to basically be destroyed in the underground cities, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do that, right? And if they're on the surface, and likewise, whether we're on the surface or on the ground, but we have been told to tie our camels, subhanAllah, as Muslims and as believers, and we've been given some level of firasa. And again, like I said, just backyard science. You don't have to do much. Just step outside your house. Don't even look at the sun. Just feel the temperature and the change in the weather, and you'll know that if anything, the weather certainly hasn't been right all year.
And Nibiru enthusiast John Moore have released maps depicting North America's post-Nibiru coastlines.
Now, John Moore has got a lot of connections in the U.S. military. He lives near the Ozarks, which is very high up. Actually, that's probably one of the safe havens in the States, Missouri Ozarks, because it's quite high up from sea level. It's a mountainous region. So a lot of it turns out if you do your research and and if you've done the research that I've been doing for however many years, you'll certainly no doubt come across this information that a lot of the military personnel high up in the military in the States have slowly shifted from their residence, wherever that is dotted across the United States of America, to the Missouri Ozarks. They're all shifting there. Apparently, not much estate is available anymore in terms of houses. And then you've got all these celebrities, as well as these high-profile businessmen who've got these $1 million palatial homes near the oceans, who are selling them at remarkably low prices from what the market rate is, because they're expecting this to be near the oceans is almost like a death wish, right? When this system comes in, they want to be in safer locations. Anyway, that's another topic altogether, but he's just mentioned him, so I thought I'll just explain and give you a bit of background behind it.
I know this all sounds horrible and almost unbelievable. This depiction is what we would call a perfect nightmare scenario for millions of people. But it is important that you remember one thing above all else. Humans have a strong desire to survive. So although lives will be changed in the blink of an eye by what approaches, life will continue on this planet in one form or another, as it always has. I would like to direct your attention to a few very intriguing images and videos that I received just recently. Now, I would encourage you to continue sending your images and video captures to our Facebook page at the address shown here. You can also send them private email on our YouTube account by clicking on the About icon located on our channel page shown below. The first image captured from the Soho Imaging website on September the 16th is showing a massive object just below the ecliptic plane.
That is huge, okay? Just to get some sort of perspective, you see that white ring? That's our sun. Not this whole ring, disk, just a white ring. You've got this big disk so that you can appreciate the CMEs coming out of it, okay? So they deliberately put this huge disk, and they put this white ring so you can basically get a scale of the size of our sun. Whatever this object is, if you basically fit that near the sun, I think 3 or 4 of these would make the size of our sun. So whatever that is, it's substantially big. It's huge.
Which is shaped similar to a comet. Now, if we enlarge this object, you will notice that immediately behind this giant comet-like object is a trail of debris, meteors and asteroids.
Subhanallah.
And then a cluster of planets and smaller objects following in a serpentine formation or a double helix formation, what some have called the string of pearls. Now, if this satellite image has...
It's very interesting. You'll find in the PDF, subhanallah. as I begin the prologue of the PDF signs, you see that I've mentioned that these signs will occur like a string of pearls, subhanAllah, right? And that potentially, I guess, on a very subconscious level, maybe came from this as well, mashallah.
Indeed captured this complex of planets, or the Nemesis system, then the notion that it has entered our inner solar system, as Marshall Masters and Major Ed Dames and other Nibiru researchers are now claiming, then this could be very well true. Once the system crosses the ecliptic plane, its movement will be more rapid, and it will become more visible in both the daylight and the evening sky. On September 2nd, an incredible video capture of the blue Kachina was recorded in the evening sky. Take a look at these extraordinary images seen from a distance and then enlarged. This fits the description.
Subhanallah, this very much looks like the planet I was referring to, the blue planet.
Of the blue star as described by the Hopi tribe. Now take a look at the image once again in this photo. To the right is the actual object that was observed. But if you look at the ancient inscription to the left, you will notice how remarkably similar the circled inscription is to the formation of the observed object. These images are absolutely astonishing and irrefutably undeniable. Finally, I wanted to share this September 14th video capture by a skywatcher that actually considers himself to be a die-hard skeptic of Planet X.
You can see a celestial body down here. That seems to be our moon, and Allah SWT knows best. Seems to be something to the right of it as well. Yeah. And here. Allahu Akbar Kabira.
He says that after viewing what he captured outside on video on a moonlight night, he has to admit that there is something out there that he cannot explain away. Furthermore, he says that the object appears to be moving slowly towards us. Now, obviously, what he has picked up cannot possibly be as close as between the Earth and the Moon. But what he has captured certainly resembles a planet. And if you look closely at the movement of the clouds in the background, you will notice that they pass in front of this very large entity. So folks, there are some very strange things appearing in the heavens, which we just cannot explain. Images of this incoming system are becoming more prevalent each passing day. And it's up to each of us to be more vigilant and observant in the days ahead. Whatever is happening now is an ominous sign, a warning of what is coming our way. These signs are given to us so that we may warn others of the dangers that lie ahead, so that we may gain the courage and the fortitude to prepare ourselves both mentally and physically for what lies in wait.
And I guess in terms of our deen spiritually, subhanallah, because this is, if it's a real event and it does happen, it's going to shake everything down to its core. And I'm not just referring to the earth, I'm referring to us and our very beings. And it will test us in our character, in our patience, in our endurance, in our kindness, in our, charitableness, in our unity. Is subhanallah, this is just going to be, this is going to create a mark of distinction between, sides, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, so subhanallah, that's basically, I guess, that, and it was a very good presentation. Alhamdulillah, he did a brilliant job. Again, it's Skywatch Media. mashallah. I've got a lot of time for the gentleman who does some wonderful research, mashallah, and he's part of this research community. So you can see that there's reasonably intelligent people who are basically they're not they're not conspiracy theorists. I prefer to call them factists. So it's conspiracy factists as opposed to theorists. And they're just genuine people, with genuine hearts, and genuinely concerned. We're genuinely trying to find the truth and genuinely trying to put the truth out there as well. Now, a lot of us and this is something that I've noticed, never quite really could